Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, students, faculty, and our distinguished guests today. We have 3 members of the U.S. Department of State with us today, and we have 18 prominent journalists from all over Europe joining us today. They are part of an international visitor leadership program with the Department of State. And what they are studying is promoting discerning consumers of media. In our freshman class here at the high school, we use a program called Checkology, which is part of the News Literacy Project. They had reached out to me, as I was one of the first adopters of the program, and asked if they could come see our students using the product, get our students' thoughts about it, if it's really helping them become better consumers and producers of digital media. So today we welcome our guests who are here to interact, observe. Feel free to ask them questions. They may ask you some questions, but they're here just to kind of observe and see public education and see what we're learning. So I would love if maybe Virgil could start and introduce yourself. If you could say your name and your country and maybe what publication you work for, that would be great.
Hello, I'm Virgil. I'm from Seattle. So my country is United States, and I'm traveling with the group on behalf of the State Department.
Good morning, I'm Ramona, and I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm also with the State Department traveling with the group.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Gabor from Hungary, and I teach media law and all things regarding media at universities.
Hi, I am Ingunn from Norway, and I work as a political reporter in our public service TV channel.
Morning, everybody. I'm Haris. I'm from Estonia, and I work in a place called Estonian Internal Security Service. It's sort of the equivalent of the FBI in Estonia. We don't investigate all the normal crimes, but only the ones that are related to national security. And I work there as a spokesperson and press officer.
Hi, I'm Nicolas Zanettos. I come from Cyprus. I don't even know that if you know this place. We'll see it later. It's the little country just under Turkey. But yeah, I'm I'm a political reporter and editor-in-chief in Alpha TV in Cyprus.
Hi, my name is Renata. I'm from Latvia and I work in public radio.
Hi, my name's Serla. I work at UNESCO in Paris. Who knows what UNESCO is? Okay, who knows what the United Nations is? Okay, so UNESCO is part of the United Nations and it deals with culture, education, science, and also with promoting press freedom. And we're based in Paris.
Hi, my name is Barbara. I'm from Slovenia and I work for a Slovenian press agency.
Hi everybody, my name is Jan and I'm working as a teacher on a university and I'm teaching media history, also media literacy. That's all.
Good morning everyone, my name is Lubomir. I live in this beautiful country here called Bulgaria. I work as an international affairs reporter for the Bulgarian news agency. I cover politics, diplomacy, international conflicts, and we basically provide news content to other media outlets such as TV, radio stations, and newspapers.
Hello everyone, my name's Adam. I'm from Northern Ireland in the UK, and I work in London for the BBC.
Morning everyone, I'm Matteo and I'm also from the UK in London, and I run a company called Shout Out UK, which is a youth news network that tries to get more young people like yourselves involved in discussing politics through political literacy as well as media literacy.
Hi everyone, I'm Felicia. I'm from a country you've never heard about probably. It's Moldova, it's right there. I'm deputy editor-in-chief at a website called Agora. I write about politics. We have a column on fact-checking. So go ahead and ask me questions if you have.
Hi everyone, I'm Catarina. I'm from Portugal and I work for RTP, which is a TV news station in Portugal. So Portugal is here, I hope you know. There. Next to Spain, Pablo is from Spain, so we are together in here, you see. And I'm really happy to be here with you, so we are all hoping for your questions.
Hi everybody, my name is Marzio Fatucchi and I live here in the center of Italy. I'm a reporter. I've been reporting for 23 years and now I'm a political editor in Corriere Fiorentino, that is a local section of Corriere della Sera, the main Italian newspaper.
Good morning, my name is Skander Sacipi. I'm coming from Serbia. I work as a journalist and editor-in-chief in news information portal in south part of Serbia, Tituli. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Pablo. I come from Spain, as Catarina said, and I work in a digital newspaper called El Confidencial in Madrid, and I cover court news. And I think I'm the youngest of this group, so if you want to ask me questions, I would be really happy to answer them.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie. I'm from the Republic of Ireland, at the very edge of Europe there. I work for the Irish Broadcasting Regulator, which is a little bit like the FCC, if you have heard about the FCC, yeah. But my role is very much about media literacy and getting people working together to improve media literacy for everybody, not just for young people, but also for young people.
Hi, my name is Michał. I anchor news in television in Poland. I'm also a morning news show host, and I do a bunch of reporting. I also used to work for public radio and public television back in Poland.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to take the next half an hour or so and break into what we call our big group, and you're going to be able to see Mrs. Griffin's class in action using Checkology. And then we'll come back around 10 o'clock so that hopefully there'll be a lot of questions back and forth about what you saw, and hopefully the students will have questions for you as well. Certainly.
So I would like to know, what news did you see today and in which platforms? No one see anything.
My name is Jared. I subscribe to a morning briefing from the New York Times. It gets delivered to my...
How old are you?
I'm 14.
And what news did you see today? What was more interesting to you?
I forget what it was this morning, honestly. There's always like a little bit of section, like a section about business, a section about finances, about politics, sort of every morning. And then they give like a backstory, like a sort of today in history sort of thing.
And you are interested in that because you want to do something about that areas in the future, or because your parents told you to read the newspaper? Why?
I like politics a lot, so I like to read the news and know what's going on sort of just in the country overall.
What about the others?
I am subscribed to an app.
Where are you?
And apparently there's like... Apparently there was like a lot of bombs and packages around like the political people. That's what I know.
Where do you saw it? Like in which platforms did you get to know it?
Some like news app.
Where?
Stay tuned. Some news thing.
WhatsApp chats? WhatsApp chats?
Yeah.
Oh, Snapchat. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
How many of you guys want to be journalists? I don't see any hands.
We have one over here.
Tell me why, if there's one of you. Because you know, guys, it's not very popular nowadays to be a journalist.
Hi, I'm Katrina. I'm actually here covering this event for our school newspaper. So I'm a senior, so I'm hopefully going to college to study some journalism. Which is really
So why do you want to be a journalist?
That's a tough question. I just want to report the truth, if that makes any sense. I'm really in any aspect possible, and I also kind of want to. I think journalism is a really good outlet to inspire others as well. That's what I want to do.
What habits do you have in terms of journalism? What do you read? What do you watch? What do you...
In the morning, I'm not gonna lie. I scroll through Twitter, and I read like articles that are written like by New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post occasionally, and really whatever catches my eye, like things that usually aren't happening actually in the U.S. that I think are really interesting that we don't really know about that often. We don't really hear about that often, so I think it's pretty cool.
Like on Facebook or
Twitter, Facebook, Twitter. That's pretty much. I just go through my news feed and they post like little sections of articles.
So if you want to be a journalist, do you have a question for us?
We'll get there. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Thank you, though.
Is it okay if we kind of move into our educational part for you to observe, and then we'll come back to your questions at 10? Is that okay?
I'm really enjoying it, but anyway.
I would say yes because the president does it, so.
Okay. Okay, so you think that the usage of the school having particular needs in this instance is really important towards the expression of how people
removed is protected by the First Amendment? No. Why? You listen to the radio. Nobody listens to the radio anymore. Right? How many of you have Spotify? I don't even have it. Yes, how do you get it? The phone. So on your phone, looking at
I want you to know that this court case happened. He did not go to school that day. He was on the other side of the street. He was not on school property. What's an action that counts as speech? Maybe expressing my opinion.
Saturday Night Live? What's like the big thing that happens on Saturday Night Live? Who do they tend to mock?
First of all, I'd like to ask you, the question was asked before about if any of you wants to be a journalist, but I was also thinking, what is your opinion on being a journalist? What kind of a job is this? How do we do what we do? How do we get a story done? What's important in having a story? Like, how do you know that what your fake news was a word I just heard in one of the conversations? How do we know that what we publish is decent, is news, is not a story that someone made up and we just followed? How do you think this works?
So I think one thing that's very important for journalists is to make sure it's edited by your peers so that you can check to make sure all of your facts are consistent with what is true, and that it's generally a very important job to get information in a short and concise manner to the general population.
How do you know it's true? If you have a source and they tell you something, how do you know they're not making it up?
You can check multiple other sources, check multiple newspapers, multiple stations to make sure that what is being said is consistent throughout multiple forms of media.
Katerina?
Is there anyone in the room who thinks that perhaps we don't need those big media companies and news channels anymore because everyone are online? We have Twitter, Snapchat, WhatsApp. I can get everything from there. I don't actually need news every day, every week, every month. Anyone who thinks like that? And it's okay if you just say why you think so.
I agree that we don't really need as big of these news companies as we have because, like Mr. McKay had stated, we have apps like Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat that can give you the information that you need rather than having to go onto the TV and like tune into the channel. So I think it's not as relevant or necessary as it might have been like 10 years ago when like Instagram and Snapchat weren't even made. I don't think. I don't know. But I agree with what you said. So.
Do you watch TV or you don't watch TV at all?
I watch Hulu and Netflix every now and then. I don't actually. No, I watch football every now and then, but outside of that, I don't really go on live
Do
TV.
your parents watch TV?
My parents do, yeah. They watch TV shows, and then my dad will every now and then tune into the weather, but that's about it. Yeah.
How do you know that what you read on Twitter or Snapchat on every other platform is true?
Well, most of the time it probably isn't true. You have to take everything sort of with a grain of salt and use logic in order to sort of like decipher whether or not you think that it is true or that if it's coming from a reliable source. Like if it's coming from a first-hand witness, say like at a terrorist attack, a majority of that time it's going to be true. But then every now and then there's going to be someone faking it and just putting out fake news.
Thank you. So I have a question. What do you think that are the biggest threats of our world? What concerns you?
I feel like one of the biggest things is lying, because that's just going to change everyone's opinion. No one knows if it's actually true if they haven't experienced it firsthand, and it can just change the way everyone thinks and really affect outcomes of everything.
I feel it's like people's inability to admit when they're wrong, because like now since we have the internet, everyone thinks that they're an expert on anything instead of actually like getting like the proper information from a reliable source. Like instead of going to the doctor when you're sick, you just look up symptoms on the internet and then, yeah.
So are you talking about, for example, hate speech?
Yeah. So some people can easily be influenced by this stuff. So if someone writes on the internet about something about this race doing something, and then it can influence how they think about this race, and then it'll eventually spread.
Do you think that that's people's personalities, or the internet creates that kind of feelings?
I think that the internet kind of creates this kind of feeling, sort of.
Thank you.
All right.
I think there's a lot of bias in news now, and with the rise of apps like Instagram and Twitter, you sort of get a personalized feed based on what you already agree with. So there are a lot of sources that have a bias towards a particular opinion or political party. So if you're only seeing things that are that you already agree with, then you don't really get the other side, and you don't get the full truth.
Good answer, thank you.
I think what's really scary is a lack of empathy among a lot of people, and how a lot of politicians see people that are not like them as not human, and that can lead to decisions out of fear and ignorance that hurt many groups.
Can you give us an example of that?
Recently, there has been a lot in the news about trans rights in America, and many people who are against trans rights see them, I think they see them from a perspective of fear. These people are not like me and do not identify like me, and therefore should not have the same rights because they're not the same, and I don't understand them. But seeing people like that without really seeing them as people can really hurt everybody.
Thank you so much. Let me just say something really personal, but I cover human rights, and it's for people like you that I work for. So thank you so much.
I think that it's the effect that people can't really accept those who are different from them, the inability for those Like, some Christians believe they can't accept gay people, or certain tribes in Africa can't accept others from Africa because they think they're different from them. They can't accept those that are different from them. So.
Thank you, thank you.
So like one thing I would say like terrorist attacks, like how people like can be like scared from that, because like all around the world, like
Look at us. Now look to the floor. Look at us.
No, I'm just kidding. All right. So like terrorist attacks like these days are like happen a lot, and like they can like influence the world and like scare everyone that like you can just like something can happen, like the Islamic things and stuff like that. So you can like, I'll just be like if a terrorist attack and like a bomb like and stuff like that. So like that would probably scare people and like stuff. Okay. Yeah.
So I believe that the greatest threat to our civilization as a whole on Earth is that we have begun to fall out of a willingness to compromise. People in politics and even people day to day have a very minute willingness to compromise, and that's a problem for us, because without that, all people do is argue and draw further to the extremes. And the further they go to those extremes, the more people start to say negative and false things about each other, and it just tears people apart.
What concerns me about like news stuff is like politics, like Donald Trump, like different sides of politics, like bias and arguments, and the questions of votes.
Extremism.
Yeah.
Big extremism.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made a good point, and I want to ask you if you think that that's also the problem of media, that they don't want to compromise. When you see some big media outlets, if you see some national media, do you think that they are trying to make compromises, or they are trying more to separate the one part of the society from another one?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I do notice that is beginning to happen in the media. I think that as of now, the media is still fairly neutral. There is still bias, of course. There always will be. But as of now, I feel that the media is a more willing place of compromise, and it's one of the last places, really, that people are able to do such a thing. And that I can just see that it's starting to draw nearer and nearer to the place where, at least in the United States, where politics are, where politicians are drawing further to the extremes and not able to compromise just because of a party, a color, anything. And I would hate to see the media do that, but I think unless something is done soon, that will happen. But as of now, it hasn't.
Thank you.
I think that the media actually tries to provoke people sometimes, because when you provoke someone, it kind of hooks them in almost, and when they get that strong emotion, it kind of gets them angry about the subject, and they want to be a part of it almost. Can you give an example? Just being blatantly biased, I guess, in something. I don't really know how to give it an specific example.
Yeah, and do you think that your big media outlets and national media outlets are somehow biased in that term?
Yeah, there's definitely some sort of bias usually.
And which sort?
Sorry, what?
Which sort of bias? Can you specify that, or?
Whoever's writing the story, whether it's their background or their personal opinions.
Okay, thank you.
I think something that is a big threat to people is not knowing if the media is giving out the truth or not, and not knowing whether or not it's the truth.
Do you feel that you have a voice in media? Do you feel that your voice is heard by the media?
Not really. I kind of think the media can like push you to have your own opinion, and like influence you to like kind of spread your
But do you feel
opinion.
do you think that young people's concerns are heard from the media, or like young people don't have a voice in the media?
I don't know.
So you asked if we think our voice is heard, but do you think that young people's voices are heard in the media? Would you listen to us?
No, I don't think so. No. I think there are layers of society that are absolutely not represented in the media. And I think young people are the bulk of that. And it's really interesting for us to come here because I know it's hard to imagine looking at us here, but once we were in those chairs, and it's not that long ago, and we thought about exactly the kind of stuff that you are thinking about. And we wanted to do things differently as well, and to try and change maybe not the world, but our world, and how we live. And I think we live in a place now today where that's not necessarily been as successful as we would have thought when we were 14 or 16 or 18. So I suppose you have a lot of work to do because we have not been able to do it. So it's kind of lovely to hear all of your opinions and your very strong and well-articulated ideas on that stuff. Because you may not have a voice now, and I don't believe you do, but you will, and you're preparing for it. So, good luck.
Thank you.
So with like all of these news platforms that are like sort of like biased and then like trying to like give people an opinion on a certain thing that aren't really giving out news, are you afraid of like being lumped in with these, or?
I would say there's a fear that it's less being accused of lying or being quote unquote fake news to the same degree, certainly where I work. But what is similar is what affects us, and I think probably affects everyone, is the disengagement and the desire not to actually read or watch or listen to the media in the same way, because it is all part of, I don't need to know that. Somebody else will tell me if it's important. It's probably nonsense anyway. So there are still, I think, enough levels of trust in what we would call mainstream media to make it worthwhile actually doing it. But it's a sort of cynicism, if you like, of is more general, as do I need to do it, rather than, oh, I don't believe them, but do I have to? And I would just say, on the conscious of we have lots of young people here, and you've had very interesting lessons on the First Amendment. And what we need, if I can put in a plea to your generation, which I was many decades ago, that we need you as well. It's our job to appeal to you, right? We have to get you, but also we need you to be interested in it as well. We can't do everything. We need people to come to us to be interested in what's happening in local government, in government generally, in society, in their community. And it can be very easy when you have Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and whatever it might be, for just to believe that what matters is what shows up on that, which is often not the case. Oftentimes things are incredibly important and incredibly necessary. In 4 years' time you'll all be voting. I'm not saying you have to read the New York Times, or you have to listen to CBS or Fox or whatever, but I think we can meet halfway rather than constantly giving you 10-second videos of animals cuddling, things like that.
In light of the recent events that took place at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul, what do you believe is the greatest threat to your freedom to tell the truth and to state your opinion in the media?
What you mentioned was a very tragic event, but it was one that happened. But what I think in general, what actually limits us is money, and it's not about the money that we gain, but in my opinion, maybe this is my perspective, it's the money that our companies earn and don't want to lose. So if there's anything that's, there's this freedom of speech level that we are all operating on, and there's another level of people who make money out of it. So the question is is the principle of level of freedom of speech as important for them as it is to us. Because if they say, well, this story is a no, you're not doing it, you're not covering it, for any particular, for any reason they have, I'm not covering it. And what I think is, because what you mentioned, the Khashoggi tragedy is an awful event that happened. But this is an event that everyone knows about. We all discussed it a lot. But what happens every day is editors thinking, okay, if we can cover this story because either we should not, and this happens in different media outlets for any reason, or, and this is also a matter of money, we're unable to. We don't have resources to cover for it, and that's it. So I think this is what limits it.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to be more precise very briefly about what I just said. I know a story that was not done because it was supposed to cover a huge, huge company who actually happens to spend a lot of TV commercials. And they didn't even have a contract already signed, but they would just say, the TV station would just say to the journalist, we'll skip on that because we're in the negotiation process with this very company. So this is what I mean when I mean money.
I'll just add something on the safety of journalists, just very briefly. I think it is true that there's issues with safety of journalists throughout the world, and it's something that should be getting better, and actually it's getting worse. And in particular, the safety of women journalists is getting worse, and it's something that the European Union is working on quite actively, because without journalists, there is no press, and without press, there is definitely no freedom of press. So I think these are important things to bear in mind.
Oh, and just add one little point about the safety of journalists. It's not such a big issue in Europe as it is in other parts of the world, but even in Europe there have been some journalists killed in the last 2 years. But how often do you think, on average, around the world, a journalist gets killed? Do you think it would be maybe twice a year? Once a month, or once every 4 days? Option 1, twice a year. Okay, we've got 2 hands up. Okay, once a month? Okay, nobody. Once every 4 days? Correct, once every 4 days. So it is quite a widespread issue. Go ahead.
So my first question was gonna be this thing you were just telling about. I was gonna ask if you felt unsafe after reporting a big issue relating to the government or some big company. But you already addressed that, so I'll move to the next one. My second question was that, like, when you're writing something, how do you know what to write and what not to write? And you know, like, keep stuff neutral, but express your opinion.
Can I answer this one? So there is a bias when you're writing a news article, and there is a bias when you decide what to write in the first place. So there is bias everywhere. No one is neutral totally, 100%. But there is a couple of rules that they teach you in journalism school, whatnot, about how if you have one opinion, you should balance it with another opinion. So that way you become neutral yourself. But of course, every news outlet has its own editorial policy and decides what to write. And if you want to be a part of this news outlet, if you feel like them, you work there. If you're not, I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Anyone?
Let's say there is a very important thing. You can be biased in terms of what you think about the story and so on and so on. And very important is the balance of opinions and also the truth of the facts you are working with. Yeah, if you are working with some numbers, you need to be really sure that the numbers are true and the names are true and everything, because yeah, you need to double check everything. Yeah, and this is a really important thing, because in our country sometimes journalists they have some opinion, political opinions, and so on, and they use these facts to support their opinion. So this is definitely the bad way, yeah, because the public then don't trust you anymore if this becomes that you somehow manipulated these facts. So you need to be always true on the facts.
Thank you.